Hello, sportsmen. On our last program, we got into the subject of bow hunting for deer, but from the equipment side, we looked at bows, arrows, how they fly, why it's important for a hunter to have a balanced, well-tuned outfit. On this program, we'll look at the deer side of bow hunting, how a hunter can appeal to the senses of a white-tailed deer. So stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost with deer hunting ideas for a practical sportsman. White-tailed deer have been regarded as the toughest big game animal to hunt in North America. Now, this isn't just a rationalization by unsuccessful hunters to explain why they can't put venison on the table either. The legendary Fred Bear hunted with a bow and arrow for virtually every big game animal on Earth, and he always said the white-tailed deer was far and away the toughest animal to get close to with a bow and arrow. Now, don't jump to conclusions and say that deer are difficult to hunt because they're smart, because that isn't true. Smartness is not a high-ranking characteristic in the world of wildlife. Animals don't reason and think and communicate the way they've often been portrayed in cartoons and movies. Animals react, and they're wary, but they're not blessed with an overabundance of brains. Deer are often spooky and sensitive to sounds and smells and sights in their environment, and it's because they're on the lookout for danger. Deer are in the group of animals that are plant eaters, and plant eaters in the animal kingdom are what the meat-eating animals feed on. The number one fear of a deer is a meat-eating animal, whether it's a wolf, a coyote, a mountain lion, a dog, a bear, or a human being. We're all meat eaters, and the plant-eating animals are afraid of getting too close to us. This makes hunting deer a challenge because they use their keen senses to find out where we are. Now, the senses on a deer can be used to our advantage as hunters if we know how they work and what we can do to fool a deer's senses or attract the deer through its senses. Let's consider what we have to work with, though. The eyes. Well, they work in all directions, 360 degrees, and they pick up movement easily. Now, we can use the eyes by setting out deer decoys, for one thing. The ears. They can swivel in all directions, cupping the sound. There are some sounds that hunters can make to attract deer, too. Now, the nose. This has been trumped way out of proportion as a key sensory organ to a deer. A deer's sense of smell is far better than ours, but it only works when a deer is downwind of something. Anything downwind from a deer, it can't smell. So a deer's nose isn't nearly as versatile and important as we've been told. But fooling a deer's nose or attracting it with a scent can work under the right circumstances. Then there's the sense of taste. Eating, food, every animal responds to that, and deer are no different. For many years, bait has been the staple of hunters who want to attract deer to a specific area. Sugar beets, carrots, apples, corn, deer feed on all of them, and many types of food are used as deer bait. But this year, it's the year of creative deer hunting products. So let's look at some items that cater to a deer's sense of taste. This product is a new one on the market called deer candy. It actually looks like maybe some birdseed or bird food, but it's a mixture of grains that deer like that are mixed in molasses, which is why it's called candy. Brett St. Pierre is one of the guys who developed this. He says you just take it out of the tin and dump it right on the ground, set it on the ground. Kind of warm under these lights, so it's kind of coming apart, but it's very sticky. You can see the molasses in here that holds this together. Deer apparently not only like the grain and the seeds, but they like this molasses. They find it very attractive, not just the taste of it, but the smell of it from a distance. Now, John Ford took some of this deer candy out to Bob Jones's Circle J Ranch in Portland. He has a 65-acre enclosure with a number of wild deer on it, and boy, when the deer smelled this, got downwind from it, the reaction was immediate. The wind was blowing straight into the camera. The first deer that came across this field was about 10 feet downwind from the candy, which was marked by the aluminum foil on the stick. Now it stopped, walked up to the candy, and started munching. This mixture of molasses and grain was instantly recognized by the deer as good food. It chowed down on whitetail candy in much the same way that the previous deer by the 2-ton bait pile was wolfing down the carrots. And here is the new wave of deer attractant products. These are things that well, they aren't bait. They're marketed as mineral attractants. There's two kinds. This is called Magic Dust. This is called Magnum Buck. The Magic Dust, if we look at this, course, smelling it, I don't smell anything at all in this. It's white. It doesn't really look like sugar or anything. It has what appears to be little fibers in it. No odor. Put this on the ground, and it's supposed to drive deer crazy. That's magic dust. The Magnum Buck, on the other hand, looks like, well, I don't know, it looks like sand, real lightweight sand or fertilizer or something like that. It's very lightweight, though, and it does have a strong odor of what appears to be anise, which is a licorice type of odor. It's long been used by trappers and hunters to attract deer. It's a spice. But this does have look at the ingredients on the label here, just a ton of minerals, and these are supposed to be good for the deer as well as attract deer to the spot on the ground. Let's go to the magic dust first of all and let Scott Yarborough give us his sales pitch.
So what do we got here?
This is Michigan Magic Dust, which is 6 minerals that when mixed with water creates catnip for deer. Some people call it cocaine for deer. Okay. You just pour it in 5 gallons of creek, lake, or pond water. Stir it for just about a minute. The best place to use it is right where 2 deer trails come together, which we're doing here today. Just pour it out into about a 4-foot area. And in about 3 days to a week, the deer should be on this, and they'll come to this all season long. It's cheaper than bait. It lasts longer than bait. And you can't see it like you can a big bait pile.
Magnum Buck. This product is applied to the soil the same way. Product manager Matt Radzilowski shows the alternative method. The instructions on Magnum Buck say you should turn over the soil and rake it up in a 5-foot radius. Either pour a liquid mixture or put the powder on the ground and mix it in a little. In a week or two, wildlife activity should be evident, and in several weeks, the deer should paw the ground, chew the soil, tear up the area, apparently trying to get the salt or minerals or something from the soil. Matt put out several plots of each product in an area where we frequently see deer, and here's a report. The weather has kind of scotched some of our hopes for some clear tracks. You can see right there in that depression, there is a deer track full of water. It just rained in the past 24 hours. In fact, a couple hours ago it rained. But this plot is one of the magic dust. We got a shot a day or two after we set it out, Matt.
Yeah, I had almost immediate response, approximately 2-3 days after we put out the magic dust. I had deer going through here just pawing through it.
And now, a week later, where we hoped that it would be kind of tore up, what did this look like 2 days ago?
2 days ago, I removed any deer track that was in there. I just gave it a nice thorough raking just to see how much more deer were coming in the following day. And you can see we did have quite a bit of rain here and kind of washed off most of the tracks we did have.
But that is supposed to activate this.
Supposed to activate it and really get the deer going.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. Test plot number 2 has a newly created deer trail coming out of the woods along the edge here of this field. This is the Magnum Buck plot, which was created the same day as the Magic Dust plot about a week ago. And Matt, you've been raking it up, and it looks like this is about in the same condition as the other one. We don't have the standing water in any of the depressions, but...
Yeah, same thing. Just raked everything through, and we're still waiting for the big amounts of deer to come through here and start tasting the product.
Okay, we got 2 more plots to check real quick. The first 2 plots were raked. The third was uncultivated ground where Scott Yarborough poured the liquid solution of magic dust. It appeared to kill the grass. You could see some of the whitish residue, but there was no evidence we could see of deer pawing up the ground yet. Now, it could be that these mineral attractants take several weeks to work. And plot number 4, this is our control plot. This is actual deer bait. We got some hay, got some corn, got some apple mash from freshly squeezed apples here. Maddie, it's attracted a lot of bees, but I really don't see anything in the way of deer activity here either.
No, not yet. It doesn't appear to be. I did see a woodchuck here the other day, and that's about all that I have seen feeding so far.
Okay, so our report on the Magic Dust, Magnum Buck, and bait pile here at the end of September is none of it has been spectacular, but maybe the good stuff is to come.
Hopefully so.
We'll report that in a future show. So if you want to appeal to a deer's sense of taste, I mean, you have choices here. The traditional bait like corn, there's the deer candy that they can also smell from a short distance away, and we have the Magnum Buck, the Magic Dust, these mineral attractants. We're going to be testing all of these, seeing how they compare with each other as the season progresses, because that's the important thing, how these work during hunting season. Far more important than how they work before hunting season. But what about a deer's sense of smell? Now, this is something that is far overrated by hunters for years and years. The deal on smell is that the odor has to be carried by the air to the deer's nose. Now, this is fine if the deer is directly downwind and the odor is coming to its nose. But what if it's blowing off to the side or another direction? A deer's nose is useless. But there are some things that you can do in relation to a deer's nose that can help you as a hunter. A key thing you have to realize about a deer's sense of smell is that it can identify a predator by its odor. They know what meat-eating animals smell like. We all exude odors that are the result of eating meat, and these meat-eating odors scare deer. There are three things a hunter can do to keep this odor from alarming a deer. Number one, stay downwind. If the breeze is blowing from the deer towards you, a deer can be within several feet of your body and not smell you at all. But if the wind is blowing towards the deer, you have two options. One is to use a cover scent of some type. Put an odor in the air that minimizes your own odor by overpowering it. Or you can wear clothing that helps minimize the odor that you're generating.
What we got here is a scent lock suit. It has activated charcoal in here. It's supposed to absorb all odors, all human scent and everything. And what you do is you put this charcoal suit on your ordinary clothes, and then on top of it, I've got my Gore-Tex camo. What you have to do to activate this is you stick what your outerwear is going to be along with the scent lock suit in the dryer for 50 minutes and let it fluff through, and then put it in a sealed plastic bag to keep any odors from happening. So
Johnny, what we're going to do here is Zach's going to go out with the suit on out in the field. I'm going to go out with just normal body odors, typically what a hunter would have out in the field. We're going to go test out the suit, just lay out in the field. Zach will be at one end, I'll be at the other, and just see how the deer react. Ready to give it a try?
yeah, let's do it.
Let's go.
Zachary Trost was lying flat on the ground, hidden in the grass, below that blaze orange hat that was propped on a stick. He was wearing the scent lock suit. Matt Radzalowski was 75 yards away under the other blaze orange hat. The wind was blowing towards the camera. John Ford was downwind under some trees about 75 yards from both Zach and Matt. Now, a deer wandered about 20 yards from Zach, directly downwind from him, and for a while it seemed she didn't smell that human odor at all. This distance is incredibly close for a deer. 20 yards downwind from a human, normally the scent would be so strong the deer would snort and take off flagging its tail. This doe seemed to detect something in the air, enough to cause her to walk off briskly, but with her tail down. She didn't appear alarmed, just a little concerned. The scent lock suit seemed to help. If Zach was bow hunting, he could have gotten off a shot. On the other side of the field, where Matt was lying without any special odor protection, a buck walked about 30 or 40 yards on the downwind side. Now, it looked closer because the hat was on a high stick, but both Matt and John figured it was about 35 yards away. This buck had no doubts. The human odor was strong, its tail went up, and it took off running. A group of deer followed it, each getting a snootful of human scent as they crossed downwind from Matt. Now, if you doubt the effect of the wind, check this out. While John was hidden in a blind made from a pile of pine trees, this fawn walked in front of him about 10 feet away. But the fawn is upwind, and there's no way it could catch John's scent. Its ears and eyes work in all directions, but its nose only catches odors coming downwind to it. It is possible to create a scent for deer that are downwind, and here's the newest one.
It's a deer lure cover scent that smokes. It turns the wind into your ally instead of your enemy. It's like an incense stick or a punk stick. There's approximately 6 sticks in each flavor, in each package, and they'll go for approximately 2 hours. They're easy to light. You just turn around and take and light 2 sticks, and you put them in the little sleeves in the bottom of the bucket, and you stick them in the ground. You put an apple and a urine right next to each other. Got to be. Got to burn an apple and a urine. There's 8 different flavors in that apple stick, we believe.
Now, why do you put it in the bucket?
First and foremost, we don't want to burn down the forest primeval. There's not an open flame, but there is a hot coal on the end of them things. Now you want the wind to blow, big time. You want to set the bucket out. You want to place the sticks at the distance you want to shoot. Wherever you want that boy to be standing, that's where you want to put them. And it doesn't really make much difference which way the wind's blowing. Where you're concealed is important due to your movement. As far as smelling you, this stuff is so potent that chances of the deer smelling you when this is burning is very, very slim. About 95% of the deer will, in fact, come up there and stick their nose right in the smoke. Not every deer is going to come up and stick their nose in the smoke. Some of them will stay back a little ways. The most important thing is that it doesn't frighten them, and they'll come up there and mill around. They might stay back about 10 feet or so from the sticks, but really don't care.
John Ford said he was amazed at the reaction to the deer scent sticks. The deer did what Rick Dawson said they do. They were curious about the smoke. What their noses couldn't smell, their eyes could see, and they were intrigued with that swirling smoke. The products that have come out in the past year or two for deer hunters are fun products. They're far different, really, than the huge bait piles that people have been using in the past. Then, of course, those scent products I've talked about before that you put on the ground. These new products are taking a whole different approach. Of course, the deer candy. I mean, this is kind of a gimme here. I mean, it's this food that is put out in a package that deer just seem to love. These two products are kind of unproven right now as to how useful they are for deer hunters, but we do know that a lot of deer hunters are buying these products and putting them out, so we're going to learn what the result is fairly soon. Same thing with the deer scent sticks. Something that a lot of people are experimenting with. Now, all of these, by the way, go for a price range of between $5 and $10, so you can buy them and monkey around with them for not too much money. If you want to eliminate your own scent, people have asked about this scent lock suit. This is kind of pricey. This is up to about $165, but the indications are that it works. There are other products that are fun to use, like all of these are, fun to experiment with, and I suppose the most fun that people have had are with the deer decoys. Who would believe that something like this can fool a deer? Well, I tell you what, if you haven't tried it, you ought to. The footage we've seen is just incredible. I'd like to take a moment here to talk about some early fallout that happened from the recent crime bill. It's a situation that started even before the crime bill passed. I'm talking about the shortage of primers that shooters who load their own cartridges are having trouble finding in stores. A lot of rumors flying around that the government is trying to keep primers out of the hands of law-abiding citizens so we can't reload cartridges, all kinds of scenarios. But the truth is, we're looking at an old-fashioned panic that affects supply and demand. Now, when the proposal was being talked about to put a 1,000% tax or even 10,000% tax on ammunition and components, well, reloaders went out and they bought all the components they could at the current prices. Now, primers are the cheapest component, so they sold first. Stores ran out. Primer manufacturers didn't panic, though, because they know that if people stock up in advance on these, they're going to buy less of them in the future, so it wouldn't be wise to increase production. Now, this buying spree in the past has happened with coffee, with sugar, and now with primers. To calm people down, I mean, let me just say that please don't panic. Panic is no reason to panic. Don't have a primer panic. That's what caused this in the first place, and that's all there is to it. I usually end up the show saying, get outdoors, it's a great place to be, and that still holds for this week, but you might want to add something to your repertoire. Get one of these products. It's kind of fun to monkey around with. You get outdoors with this, sit in your blind, watch for deer. It's not only a great place to be, but it can be a lot of fun too, and that's what it's all about. See you next week. You were in a tree, and you had probably had, a little bit of Mountain Dew or Coke or something like that, and
You bet.
so go ahead, tell how you sort of called in this deer.
Well, there's many calling techniques that you can use to fool bucks, and all you're doing by doing it is to create sounds that are normal sounds that bucks hear during the rut or whatever, any time of the year really. They can't resist this type of an activity. So I purposely waited and held my urine until the wind had calmed down and died down and it was stone quiet. And at that point I started to release and it sounded really loud. And
I never heard it put that way. I released.
Yes.
What you're saying is you peed out of your tree is what you did.
that's true.
Okay, let's.
And within a very short time after that, I heard what I thought was this squirrel that I had seen before approaching from behind. So I turned around quickly to see this stupid squirrel, and here come this guy.
And this is serious. That bucks do hear a doe urinating on the leaves, and they'll go investigate that.
You betcha.
So, urinating, I shouldn't use it. Now I'm going to start saying the doe
sound.
released. The doe released.
That's true. That's true.
This is getting crazy, but the
Yes.
fact is you can tinkle from a tree. The noise on the ground will attract a doe
As will many sounds.
or a buck,
You betcha.
and that's one of them, and this is what you got.
You betcha.